It began as a hushed conversation behind Kensington Palace walls, one that aides tried to downplay, and courtiers quickly silenced. But the look on Catherine's face as she exited that private meeting said everything the palace couldn't. Something was wrong, and it involved Charlotte. What was first dismissed as a rumor soon turned into a royal firestorm, now confirmed by the very people who fought to protect it. Before we go deeper into what this really means for the royal family, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single update. At first, almost nobody outside the palace paid attention to the whispers. Royal households were no strangers to private meetings, confidential discussions, and carefully guarded conversations. Yet something about this gathering felt different. Senior advisors had arrived unusually early. Schedules were adjusted without explanation. Long-standing palace routines appeared to shift overnight. Even among experienced royal correspondents, there was a growing sense that an important development had quietly unfolded behind closed doors. According to reports circulating within royal circles, Catherine and William had spent hours in discussions with senior advisors regarding Princess Charlotte. The details remained hidden, protected by a level of secrecy rarely seen even within the monarchy. Staff members who normally spoke freely about routine engagements suddenly became guarded. Questions were met with vague responses. Requests for clarification seemed to disappear into silence. The more the palace attempted to contain speculation, the more curiosity intensified. What truly fueled concern, however, was not the secrecy itself, but the reaction of those involved. Observers noted that Catherine appeared unusually emotional in the days that followed. For a woman known throughout the royal family for her composure and calm presence, even the slightest change in demeanor was enough to trigger questions. Something significant had happened. Something important enough to shake even the most disciplined members of the monarchy. Meanwhile, William appeared determined to keep his focus on his family. Insiders claimed he spent private time with Charlotte shortly after the meeting, choosing to remain close to his daughter, while palace discussions continued behind the scenes. That decision only deepened speculation. Why had this issue suddenly become so urgent? Why were advisors devoting so much attention to a matter involving the young princess? And why did those closest to the family seem so careful about every word they spoke? As days passed, royal correspondents began noticing other unusual developments. Planned engagements were quietly adjusted. Internal scheduling appeared to change. Conversations that had once focused on immediate royal duties increasingly shifted toward the future. Some insiders started suggesting that the discussions were not centered on a crisis at all. Instead, they hinted at something far more profound, something connected to the monarchy's long-term direction. Then came the rumor that changed everything. Behind the walls of royal residences and within the corridors where decisions shaping generations are often made, whispers began spreading that King Charles had reached a historic conclusion regarding Princess Charlotte's future. Few knew exactly what that meant. Fewer still understood how far-reaching the consequences could be. But one thing was becoming increasingly clear. Whatever had been decided was powerful enough to unsettle established expectations and force some of the monarchy's most influential figures to reconsider the future they thought they understood. But the truth reaching palace corridors had little to do with crisis, and everything to do with a royal future that would change the monarchy forever. For years, Princess Charlotte was viewed as a beloved young royal with a supportive role in the monarchy. Yet behind closed doors, discussions were taking place that could elevate her position in ways few had imagined. And when Charles finally spoke, even seasoned palace insiders were left stunned. The whispers that had begun as quiet speculation were no longer confined to palace corridors. What had first appeared to be a mysterious meeting involving Catherine, William, and senior advisors was now revealing a much larger story. The focus was not a temporary concern or a passing royal discussion. It was the future itself. Behind the scenes, King Charles had reportedly begun examining what the monarchy might look like, not just in the next few years, but for generations to come. As the weight of his reign grew heavier and the realities of time became impossible to ignore, those closest to the king believed he had become increasingly focused on one question above all. Others, who would carry the institution forward when the next chapter inevitably arrived. For decades, the monarchy had been built around a familiar structure. The heir would prepare for the throne, while other members of the family would support the crown in different ways. Yet insiders claim Charles had started to view the future differently. The world was changing. Public expectations were changing. The monarchy itself was facing pressures unlike any it had encountered before. Stability, trust, and continuity were becoming more valuable than ever. According to reports from royal circles, discussions increasingly centered on strengthening the next generation of working royals, long before responsibility officially reached their shoulders. That was where Charlotte's name began appearing, with surprising frequency. At first, it seemed harmless enough. Advisors reportedly highlighted her growing confidence and natural understanding of royal duty. But over time, those conversations became more serious. What began as admiration slowly transformed into strategic planning. Some insiders even suggested that Charlotte was being viewed not merely as a supporting royal, but as an essential pillar of the monarchy's future structure. The comparisons that followed were impossible to ignore. Within palace discussions, Charlotte was increasingly linked to the example set by Princess Anne. For decades, Anne had earned respect through relentless dedication, discipline, and unwavering loyalty to the institution. She was often described as one of the monarchy's most dependable figures, someone who placed duty above personal comfort, time and time again. Advisors reportedly saw qualities in Charlotte that reminded them of that same spirit. While she was still young, they believed her future potential could become one of the monarchy's greatest assets. As those conversations intensified, another idea began gaining momentum. Some within royal circles argued that the future of the crown would require stronger female leadership than ever before, not because tradition needed to be abandoned, but because it needed to evolve. The monarchy had survived countless challenges by adapting while preserving its core identity. Charlotte, they believed, represented that balance. She carried the legacy of the past while symbolizing the possibilities of the future. Then came the discussions that reportedly changed everything. Internal conversations suggested that Charles was considering responsibilities for Charlotte, unlike anything previously expected. The details remained closely guarded, but the implications were enormous. This would not be a symbolic adjustment. This would be a meaningful expansion of her future role within the institution itself. And perhaps most surprising of all, reports suggest that Camilla became aware of these plans before any public announcement was even contemplated. Those who claim knowledge of the situation describe a noticeable shift almost immediately after the information began circulating among a select group of insiders. Questions emerged. Concerns surfaced. Assumptions that had existed for years suddenly appeared far less certain. What Charles was proposing seemed to extend beyond ordinary succession planning. It carried the unmistakable feeling of a deeper vision, one shaped by personal convictions, family dynamics, and the legacy he hoped to leave behind. As anticipation continued to build, palace observers found themselves confronting a question that seemed impossible to answer. Was this simply a carefully calculated decision, designed to strengthen the monarchy for future generations? Or was there another layer to the story, one rooted in personal relationships, private loyalties, and emotions hidden far from public view? What happened next would leave many wondering whether the decision was simply strategic or deeply personal. The monarchy has always been shaped by heirs and kings, but history often remembers the figures who stood beside them, the steady hands who carried the institution through its most difficult moments. And many inside the palace had begun to see Charlotte as exactly that kind of figure. The growing speculation surrounding King Charles's vision for Charlotte did not emerge from nowhere. It was rooted in a much larger conversation about the survival of the monarchy itself. For centuries, the crown had endured wars, scandals, political upheavals, and generational change, not simply because of those who wore it, but because of those who quietly protected it when stability was at risk. As palace discussions continued behind closed doors, many insiders reportedly found themselves looking back through history and noticing a pattern that seemed impossible to ignore. Again and again, some of the most influential figures in royal history had been women whose strength extended far beyond titles. They were the dependable forces who held families together during crises, preserved public confidence during uncertainty, and provided continuity when the institution faced moments of profound challenge. The more advisors examined the future, the more they reportedly began asking whether the monarchy would once again require that kind of steady presence. And increasingly, Charlotte's name entered those conversations. What made those discussions particularly striking was the speed with which perceptions appeared to change. For years, Charlotte had been viewed affectionately by the public, admired as a young member of the royal family, growing up under extraordinary circumstances. Yet as she matured, observers began noticing something different. Each appearance seemed to strengthen public confidence. Each interaction appeared to reinforce the belief that she possessed a natural understanding of the responsibilities that surrounded her. While still young, she was already earning attention, not because of who she might become one day, but because of how she carried herself in the present. Royal commentators reportedly noticed the same trend. Public reactions to Charlotte's appearances at major royal events were often overwhelmingly positive. There was a growing sense among supporters of the monarchy that she represented something reassuring during a period of uncertainty. As debates about the future intensified, Charlotte increasingly became associated with continuity, stability, and hope for the next generation. That growing popularity did not go unnoticed inside palace walls. Reports suggest that several senior royals were particularly impressed by her maturity. While many young members of royal families require years to adapt to public life, Charlotte appeared to navigate expectations with unusual confidence. Those observations reportedly contributed to broader discussions about her future responsibilities. The question was no longer whether she would serve the monarchy. The question was how significant that service might ultimately become. At the center of those discussions stood King Charles. According to palace insiders, he had become increasingly convinced that continuity required more than a clear line of succession. It required trusted figures capable of supporting the institution through challenges that could not yet be predicted. The future monarchy, in his view, would depend on individuals who could unite tradition with modern expectations. That belief reportedly became one of the driving forces behind the plans now being discussed. As those plans evolved, conversations began turning towards something far more ambitious. Some insiders claimed that advisors were exploring a historic role uniquely suited to Charlotte's generation. Not a position rooted entirely in old traditions, nor one disconnected from them, but something designed to strengthen the monarchy's relevance for decades to come. The concept itself fascinated royal observers, because it suggested a new approach to preparing younger royals for future leadership. Perhaps the most intriguing description came from those who viewed Charlotte as a bridge between two worlds. On one side stood centuries of royal tradition, ceremony, and duty. On the other stood a rapidly changing society demanding adaptation and renewal. In Charlotte, many believed they saw someone capable of connecting both. And as support for that vision continued to grow among influential figures, the possibility of her future role began appearing more realistic than ever before. Yet while support for Charlotte appeared to grow, not everyone welcomed the shift in royal priorities. Those closest to the palace claimed the atmosphere changed almost immediately after Charles's decision became known. Conversations became shorter, meetings became quieter, and one reaction, in particular, quickly became the focus of intense royal speculation. As support for Charlotte's emerging role continued to gain momentum, the sense of optimism surrounding the king's vision was accompanied by something far less comfortable. Beneath the carefully managed calm of royal life, questions were beginning to surface, not about Charlotte herself, but about what her rise could mean for the balance of influence within the monarchy. The discussions that had once centered on the future were now increasingly focused on the consequences of that future. And according to palace insiders, no reaction attracted more attention than that of Queen Camilla. Reports suggest that Camilla was caught off guard by the sheer scale of Charles's plans. While she had reportedly been aware that conversations regarding Charlotte's future were taking place, few expected the discussions to evolve so rapidly or carry such historic implications. What many initially assumed would be routine planning now appeared to represent a significant restructuring of long-term royal priorities. The difference was enormous. This was no longer about ceremonial duties or symbolic responsibilities. It was about shaping the future architecture of the monarchy itself. Those developments inevitably raised questions about influence. For years, different figures within the royal household had occupied distinct positions within the institution's complex structure. Yet as Charlotte's importance appeared to grow, some insiders began wondering whether existing dynamics were beginning to shift. The possibility that younger royals would be entrusted with greater responsibilities earlier than expected created uncertainty among those accustomed to established arrangements. Suddenly, the future seemed closer than anyone had anticipated. Courtiers reportedly noticed subtle but undeniable changes. Discussions involving succession planning became increasingly sensitive. Meetings that once moved smoothly now carried an undercurrent of tension. Conversations reportedly became more guarded as participants attempted to understand the full implications of Charles's intentions. While no public disagreements emerged, insiders claim there was growing awareness that important decisions were being made. Decisions capable of influencing the monarchy for decades. At the center of that uncertainty stood Camilla. Reports suggest she questioned not necessarily the principle behind Charles's vision, but the speed at which events appeared to be unfolding. Why now? Why move so decisively toward a future framework when so many variables remained uncertain? According to those familiar with palace discussions, these questions became part of a wider debate unfolding behind closed doors. Some viewed Charles's approach as bold leadership. Others worried that accelerating change could create complications the monarchy might later struggle to manage. The resulting atmosphere reportedly produced several uncomfortable encounters among senior figures. While details remain closely guarded, palace insiders describe meetings marked by careful language, cautious exchanges, and unresolved concerns. Nobody wanted open conflict. Yet the growing significance of Charlotte's future role made disagreement increasingly difficult to avoid. The more support the idea received, the harder it became for opposing viewpoints to remain hidden. Outside palace walls, speculation intensified. Royal correspondents began noticing unusual patterns. Commentators started connecting fragments of information that previously seemed unrelated. Rumors spread across newspapers, television discussions, and online forums. Every new report generated fresh questions. Every unanswered question fueled additional intrigue. The public sensed that something important was unfolding, even if the full story remained concealed. What made the situation particularly fascinating was the contrast between the growing uncertainty around him and Charles's apparent confidence. While others debated consequences and questioned timing, the king reportedly showed little sign of hesitation. Those closest to the institution increasingly believed he had reached a conclusion long before anyone else understood where events were heading. Whatever concerns surrounded the decision, Charles seemed prepared to face them. And as pressure continued to build, a deeper question began emerging from the shadows. What had convinced him that this path was worth pursuing, despite the resistance, the tension, and the risks? The answer, according to those familiar with the discussions, would reveal far more than a strategy for the monarchy's future. It would expose the personal convictions driving the king himself. But Charles appeared determined, and the reasons behind his resolve would soon become impossible to ignore. As his reign entered one of its most challenging chapters, Charles found himself thinking less about the present and more about the future. The question was no longer who would wear the crown tomorrow. It was who would protect it for decades to come. The growing tension surrounding Charlotte's future role had sparked debate across royal circles. But for those closest to the king, the reasoning behind his determination was becoming increasingly clear. This was never simply about assigning responsibilities or creating new positions within the monarchy. It was about legacy. It was about ensuring that the institution he had spent his entire life preparing to serve would find strong long after his own chapter had ended. While others focused on immediate controversies, Charles reportedly had his attention fixed on a much longer timeline. Those familiar with palace discussions claim that many of his reflections were shaped by the example of Queen Elizabeth II. Throughout her reign, she became the embodiment of continuity, guiding the monarchy through decades of change while preserving its core identity. Her ability to maintain stability during uncertain times left a profound impression on those around her. including her eldest son. As Charles considered the future, insiders suggest he often returned to the same lesson that defined his mother's reign. Institutions survive, not because they avoid challenges, but because they prepare for them long before they arrive. That belief reportedly became a guiding principle behind the conversations unfolding within the palace. Charles understood that the monarchy's strength depended upon more than titles and ceremonies. It relied upon trust. It relied upon duty. Most importantly, it relied upon continuity. The public needed confidence that future generations would be ready when their moment came. Waiting until responsibility arrived was no longer enough. Preparation itself had become part of the mission. As those discussions continued, Charlotte increasingly emerged as an important part of that vision. What had once appeared to be isolated conversations about her potential now seemed connected to a much broader strategy. Advisors reportedly described her as someone capable of helping carry the institution through future decades. Her growing confidence, public appeal, and understanding of royal expectations were no longer viewed as promising qualities alone. They were being evaluated as assets within a long-term plan designed to safeguard the monarchy's future. William and Catherine were said to be fully aware of the importance of that planning. According to palace insiders, both understood better than most the pressures that accompany royal life. Having experienced years of public scrutiny and institutional responsibility, they recognized that future generations would face challenges of their own. Rather than resisting preparation, reports suggest they supported efforts to gradually equip Charlotte for whatever role might eventually await her. Their focus remained on balance, ensuring that duty never came at the expense of family while acknowledging the realities of royal responsibility. Meanwhile, senior advisors reportedly advocated for a significant shift in how younger royals were prepared. In previous generations, responsibility often arrived gradually over time. But the modern monarchy faced a different landscape. Public expectations moved faster. Global attention never paused. Every appearance, every decision, and every action could shape perceptions instantly. Some advisors argued that the future required earlier preparation, stronger guidance, and clearer pathways for the next generation. That argument began gaining traction. Slowly but unmistakably, discussions evolved from abstract ideas into practical considerations. Potential responsibilities were examined. Long-term plans were refined. What had once seemed theoretical started taking shape in increasingly concrete ways. The possibility of a historic role for Charlotte no longer felt like distant speculation. It was becoming a serious component of the king's broader vision for the future. Yet with every step forward, the stakes grew higher. Decisions that once existed only within confidential conversations now carried real consequences. Supporters saw an opportunity to strengthen the monarchy. Critics worried about unforeseen complications. Expectations rose, pressure intensified, and as preparations continued behind palace walls, it became increasingly clear that implementing such a significant vision would not happen without resistance. Yet the closer the palace moved toward implementation, the more dramatic the consequences became. No major royal decision arrives without consequences. And as details of Charlotte's emerging position spread through royal circles, divisions that had remained hidden for years suddenly came into view. What had once been a private discussion about the monarchy's future was now evolving into something far more complicated. The closer Charles moved toward turning his vision into reality, the more obvious it became that not everyone agreed on the path ahead. Beneath the surface of royal unity, different opinions had been quietly forming for months. Now those differences were becoming impossible to ignore. The debate was no longer about Charlotte herself. It was about the future identity of the monarchy and the direction it should take in the decades ahead. According to palace insiders, informal factions began emerging around competing ideas. Some believed Charles was making a bold and necessary decision. They argued that preparing younger royals earlier was not only sensible, but essential. The institution had changed dramatically in recent years, and future stability depended on developing capable figures long before they were needed. Supporters viewed Charlotte's growing role as part of a larger strategy designed to strengthen the crown during uncertain times. To them, Charles was not creating disruption, he was preventing it. Others, however, reportedly viewed the situation through a different lens. Their concerns were less about Charlotte's abilities and more about timing. They questioned whether such a significant shift should occur so quickly. Some worried about public perception. Others wondered whether assigning greater expectations to younger royals could create pressures that might become difficult to manage later. These concerns did not amount to outright opposition, but they reflected a growing unease about how rapidly events appeared to be moving. The result was a debate that touched nearly every corner of royal planning. On one side stood those who favored modernization and adaptation. They believed the monarchy needed to evolve if it hoped to remain relevant in an increasingly unpredictable world. On the other side were those who placed greater emphasis on tradition, arguing that change should occur carefully and gradually. Neither group wanted instability, yet their differing visions created an atmosphere filled with uncertainty. Outside palace walls, the conversation intensified even further. Royal correspondents, commentators, and longtime observers began scrutinizing every development. Rumors that once circulated only among insiders now reached a much wider audience. Each new report generated headlines. Each headline sparked fresh speculation. The public fascination surrounding Charlotte's future role grew stronger with every passing week, turning what had once been a confidential discussion into one of the most talked about royal stories in years. Amid the growing scrutiny, Charlotte herself remained largely protected from the storm unfolding around her. Those closest to the family reportedly worked tirelessly to shield her from the controversies and debates consuming royal circles. While adults argued about responsibilities, influence, and long-term strategy, efforts were made to preserve a sense of normalcy around the young princess. The contrast was striking. Outside, discussions grew louder. Inside, there was a determined effort to maintain calm. William and Catherine were said to be particularly focused on that goal. According to those familiar with the situation, their priority remained their daughter's well-being. They understood the significance of the conversations taking place, but they also understood the importance of protecting Charlotte from the pressures accompanying those discussions. Their challenge was balancing preparation for the future with the realities of the present, ensuring that expectations never overshadowed family. Yet despite those efforts, something remarkable was beginning to happen. The debate had gradually grown beyond questions of policy, planning, or palace strategy. Charlotte was becoming something far larger than any title or future responsibility. To supporters, critics, advisors, and observers alike, she was beginning to represent a broader vision of what the monarchy itself could become. And as that realization spread, the focus of the story started to shift once again. But while adults debated the future, Charlotte herself was becoming the symbol of something much larger. At the heart of every headline stood a young princess who never asked to become the center of a constitutional conversation. Yet destiny has often chosen its figures long before they are ready for the spotlight. As debates intensified across royal circles, one reality became impossible to escape. The story was no longer centered solely on King Charles, palace strategy, or the competing visions for the monarchy's future. Increasingly, everything seemed to lead back to Charlotte. What had begun as quiet discussions among advisors had evolved into a broader conversation about the institution itself, and at the center of that conversation stood a young princess, whose importance appeared to be growing with every passing month. According to those familiar with royal planning, Charlotte's name was now appearing more frequently in long-term discussions than ever before. What made this development remarkable was not simply her position within the line of succession, it was the belief among some senior figures that she could become one of the defining personalities of her generation. While the public often focused on immediate events, insiders reportedly viewed Charlotte through a much longer lens. They were not evaluating who she was today. They were considering who she might become 20 or 30 years from now. Public affection for the young princess only added momentum to those conversations. Over the years, Charlotte had developed a reputation for confidence, composure, and a natural ease in situations that would overwhelm many people. Support for her continued to grow, not because she sought attention, but because she appeared comfortable carrying responsibilities that came with being part of the royal family. That growing admiration created a powerful contrast. While adults argued over policies, traditions, and future planning, public opinion seemed increasingly united in its positive perception of Charlotte herself. Much of that confidence, observers noted, could be traced back to the environment surrounding her. William and Catherine had reportedly worked carefully to provide stability while preparing their children for the realities of royal life. Their approach emphasized balance, ensuring that duty never overshadowed family. At the same time, Charlotte's close relationship with her brother George added another important dimension. As the future king and his sister matured together, many royal watchers saw the potential for a partnership that could one day strengthen the monarchy in ways similar to previous generations of royal siblings. Those comparisons became more frequent as speculation continued. Historians and commentators alike began reflecting on influential royals from the past who helped shape the institution, despite never wearing the crown themselves. Again and again, examples emerged of individuals whose loyalty, service, and stability proved essential during periods of uncertainty. For some observers, Charlotte appeared uniquely positioned to follow a similar path. The parallels were not exact, but the possibility was enough to capture widespread attention. With each passing week, expectations surrounding her future role seemed to grow. Questions that once felt hypothetical were now being discussed with increasing seriousness. What responsibilities might she eventually assume? How significant could her contribution become? And what exactly had Charles envisioned when he reportedly began planning for a stronger role for the next generation? Those questions lingered over every discussion, creating a sense that something larger was unfolding behind the scenes. Perhaps the most powerful shift was the growing belief that Charlotte represented more than a future royal role. To many supporters of the monarchy, she had become a symbol of continuity itself. She embodied the connection between generations, linking centuries of tradition with a future that would inevitably demand adaptation and renewal. In her, some believed they saw a glimpse of the monarchy's next era taking shape. According to palace insiders, Charles was among those who saw extraordinary potential in that possibility. Reports suggest he viewed Charlotte not merely as an important member of the royal family, but as someone capable of helping secure the institution's long-term stability. The more his vision became understood, the more apparent it became that his plans extended far beyond ordinary succession planning. And then, after months of whispers, speculation, debate, and anticipation, events began moving toward a moment that would transform everything. What had existed only as rumor and private discussion, was preparing to emerge into the open. The questions were about to receive answers. The uncertainty was about to meet confirmation, and the scale of the king's vision would soon become clear to everyone. And then came the moment when the king's vision finally became impossible to deny. When confirmation finally arrived, it did more than end months of speculation. It revealed the future Charles had quietly been building behind palace walls. A future in which Princess Charlotte would hold a historic place unlike any royal daughter before her. For months, the story had existed in fragments. There had been whispers behind palace doors, unexplained meetings, growing tension among advisors, and persistent questions about Charlotte's future. Every clue seemed to point toward a larger plan, yet no one outside a small circle truly understood what King Charles was preparing. Then came the moment that changed everything. What had lived in speculation suddenly moved into reality. The vision Charles had carefully developed was no longer a private discussion. It was becoming the foundation of the monarchy's future. Familiar with the situation, Charles officially confirmed what many insiders had begun to suspect. His long-term strategy for the crown would place unprecedented emphasis on preparing the next generation, and Charlotte would play a significant role within that framework. While details remained measured and carefully managed, the broader message was unmistakable. The king was not simply planning for the years immediately ahead. He was thinking decades into the future, building a structure designed to outlast his reign and was strengthen the institution for generations yet to come. Palace insiders reportedly described the decision as historic, not because it altered the line of succession, but because it reflected a fundamental shift: how the monarchy envisioned its future leadership. For years, discussions about continuity had largely focused on kings and heirs. Now the conversation was expanding. Charlotte was increasingly being recognized as an important part of the institution's long-term stability, someone whose contribution could extend far beyond traditional expectations. The significance of that recognition quickly spread throughout royal circles. Those who had followed the story from the beginning understood why the announcement carried such weight. Every private meeting, every carefully guarded conversation, and every unexplained adjustment suddenly appeared connected. The pieces fit together. What once seemed like isolated events were now revealed as part of a deliberate strategy that had been unfolding quietly behind the scenes. Reports suggest that Camilla was among those surprised by the scale of the vision being presented. While she had reportedly been aware that discussions involving Charlotte were taking place, the breadth of Charles's plans appeared to exceed expectations. The future being outlined was larger, more ambitious, and more transformative than many had anticipated. For some, it represented a bold investment in the monarchy's survival. For others, it signaled a significant redistribution of influence within the institution's future structure. Meanwhile, William and Catherine reportedly focused on a different challenge altogether. Rather than becoming consumed by headlines or speculation, their attention remained fixed on preparing Charlotte gradually and responsibly. They understood that public excitement could quickly become pressure. Their priority was ensuring that growth occurred at the right pace, allowing Charlotte to develop naturally, while learning the responsibilities that might eventually accompany her position. It was a careful balancing act between protecting childhood and preparing for destiny. Outside palace walls, public reaction intensified. Across Britain and beyond, discussions erupted about what this development could mean for the future of the monarchy. Supporters praised the focus on long-term planning. Observers debated the implications. Commentators analyzed every detail. Yet beneath all the conversation was a common realization. A new chapter was beginning. The monarchy was no longer focused solely on preserving its past. It was actively shaping its future. As the dust slowly settled, the broader significance of Charles's decision became impossible to ignore. This was never just about one princess. It was about continuity. It was about adaptation. It was about ensuring that the institution remained strong enough to navigate an uncertain future. Charlotte had become a symbol of that effort, representing both the traditions that defined the monarchy and the evolution required to sustain it. And perhaps that is why this story captured so much attention. It was not the story of a single announcement. It was the story of a vision years in the making. A vision that gradually transformed from quiet discussions into a defining moment for the House of Windsor. Long before headlines appeared and public debates began, the foundations had already been laid. The future had already started taking shape. Because in the House of Windsor, the most powerful changes rarely begin with a public announcement. They begin with a quiet decision behind closed doors. Long before the world realizes, history is being rewritten. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will see you in next one.